Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
Niccolo Tartaglia, a name whispered with reverence in the annals of early modern mathematics and ballistics, occupies a pivotal position bridging the geometrical traditions of antiquity with the emerging algebraic approaches of the Renaissance. His seminal work, published in 1537 under the title Nova Scientia, or New Science, did more than simply present novel insights into the trajectory of projectiles. It served as a critical catalyst propelling the field of ballistics from the realm of philosophical speculation into the domain of mathematical analysis and experimental verification. To comprehend the profundity of Tartaglia's contribution, one must appreciate the intellectual milieu from which it sprang, acknowledging both the enduring legacy of Aristotelian physics and the concurrent burgeoning of humanist scholarship that championed observational science. The Aristotelian conception of motion, with its emphasis on natural and violent movements, held sway for centuries. Projectiles, according to Aristotle, were propelled by an external force that gradually diminished, eventually yielding to the object's natural tendency to return to rest. This explanation, though intuitively appealing, lacked the precision necessary for practical application in the increasingly sophisticated world of Renaissance artillery. Furthermore, it failed to adequately account for the observed behavior of projectiles, particularly their parabolic paths, a detail often overlooked or misinterpreted. Earlier thinkers, including John Philoponus in late antiquity, raised criticisms of Aristotelian dynamics, proposing ideas of impressed force or impetus. Yet these concepts remained largely qualitative and lacked the mathematical rigor required to predict trajectories accurately. Tartaglia, however, directly challenged Aristotle's assertions through empirical observation and geometrical reasoning, marking a significant departure from established doctrine. Nova Scientia itself meticulously details Tartaglia's painstakingly conducted observations and analyses of artillery fire. Unlike many of his contemporaries who relied on anecdotal evidence or armchair speculation, Tartaglia engaged in direct experimentation, carefully measuring the range and elevation of projectiles fired from cannons. One of his key discoveries, prominently featured, centers on the crucial role of the firing angle in maximizing range. He determined through a combination of empirical observation and geometrical reasoning that the maximum range is attained when the cannon is elevated at an angle of 4 to 5 degrees, a result that, while not entirely original, was articulated with unprecedented clarity and supported by tangible evidence derived from methodical experimentation. The impact of this finding on artillery practice cannot be overstated, offering gunners a practical guideline for optimizing the effectiveness of their weapons. Tartaglia's analysis, however, extended far beyond the determination of the optimal firing angle. He grappled with the complex problem of describing the complete trajectory of a projectile, recognizing that the path could not be perfectly represented by a straight line followed by a sudden vertical drop, as suggested by Aristotelian physics. While unable to fully articulate the parabolic nature of projectile motion because he did not properly account for air resistance, Tartaglia correctly identified the curved trajectory, acknowledging its initial upward sweep and subsequent gradual descent. His geometrical constructions, presented within the book, illustrate his attempts to model the path, revealing both his insights and the limitations imposed by the prevailing mathematical tools of the time. In particular, his analysis of the initial impetus reveals a remarkable understanding of the relationship between force, velocity, and distance, concepts that would be formalized much later by Newtonian mechanics. Another crucial aspect of Nova Scientia lies in Tartaglia's emphasis on the importance of considering both the weight of the projectile and the power of the propelling charge. He understood that these factors were intimately linked in determining the range and accuracy of the shot. He advocated for the standardization of gunpowder mixtures and the careful calibration of cannons, promoting a more systematic and scientific approach to artillery practice. This emphasis on quantitative measurement and control represents a significant contribution to the development of experimental science. It is important to note that Tartaglia, while a skilled mathematician, was operating within a calculus framework. His geometrical constructions and proportional reasoning, while elegant and insightful, lacked the analytical power of the calculus that would later be developed by Newton and Ley. The immediate impact of Nova Scientia was substantial. Artillerists across Europe eagerly consulted the work, using its principles to improve the accuracy and effectiveness of their cannons. The book was translated into several languages and widely disseminated, firmly establishing Tartaglia as a leading authority on ballistics. Moreover, Nova Scientia inspired other researchers to investigate the problem of projectile motion further, laying the groundwork for future advancements. For example, Giambattista Benedetti, another Italian mathematician, extended Tartaglia's work by proposing a theory of motion based on the concept of inertia, anticipating some of the key principles of Newtonian physics. However, Benedetti's work was not widely embraced at the time, overshadowed by the continued influence of Aristotelian. One individual directly and profoundly influenced by Nova Scientia was Galileo Galilei. Galileo meticulously studied Tartaglia's work, appreciating its emphasis on empirical observation and mathematical analysis, while Tartaglia never fully grasped the parabolic nature of projectile motion due to his neglect of air resistance. Galileo, building upon Tartaglia's foundation, ultimately arrived at the correct solution through a combination of careful experimentation and ingenious mathematical reasoning. Galileo demonstrated that, in the absence of air resistance, projectiles follow perfectly parabolic paths. This discovery, published in his Dialogues Concerning Two New Sciences, revolutionized the understanding of projectile motion and solidified Galileo's place as a pivotal figure in the scientific revolution. Galileo explicitly acknowledged Tartaglia's contribution, recognizing him as a precursor in the quest to understand the laws of nature. The later use and evolution of Tartaglia's ideas can be traced through the works of numerous scientists and mathematicians who built upon his foundation. After Galileo provided the precise mathematical description of projectile motion, scientists turned their attention to the more complex problem of accounting for air resistance. Sir Isaac Newton, in his Principia Mathematica, developed the mathematical tools necessary to analyze the effects of air resistance on moving bodies. He showed that air resistance introduces a significant deviation from the idealized parabolic path, particularly at high velocities. Subsequent researchers continued to refine Newton's analysis, developing increasingly sophisticated models to account for the complex interaction between projectiles and the atmosphere. Modern ballistics relies on advanced computational techniques to simulate projectile trajectories with extreme accuracy, taking into account factors such as wind speed, air density, and the shape and spin of the projectile. These sophisticated models, while far removed from Tartaglia's geometrical constructions, owe a direct intellectual debt to his pioneering. Nova Scientia, however, was not immune to criticism. Some contemporaries, clinging to traditional Aristotelian views, dismissed Tartaglia's findings as speculative and contrary to established doctrine. Others questioned his experimental methods, arguing that his measurements were imprecise and unreliable. One particular criticism, articulated most forcefully by those with stronger mathematical backgrounds than Tartaglia, focused on the inaccuracies introduced by neglecting air resistance. They argued, justifiably, that the parabolic model was only an approximation and that a more complete theory was needed to accurately predict the trajectory of projectiles. These criticisms, while valid, do not diminish the significance of Tartaglia's contribution. He was among the first to systematically apply mathematical reasoning to the problem of projectile motion, and his emphasis on empirical observation paved the way for future advancements. The reception of Nova Scientia provides a fascinating glimpse into the intellectual climate of the Renaissance. On one hand, Tartaglia's work was widely celebrated for its practical value and its contribution to the art of warfare. On the other hand, it encountered resistance from those who were unwilling to abandon traditional philosophical views. The book's success demonstrates the growing importance of empirical observation and mathematical analysis in the pursuit of scientific knowledge, while the criticisms highlight the enduring influence of Aristotelian thought. The tension between these two perspectives fueled the scientific revolution, ultimately leading to a paradigm shift in the way that humans understand the natural. The direct influence of Nova Scientia extends beyond the realm of ballistics. Tartaglia's emphasis on mathematical modeling and experimental verification had a broader impact on the development of scientific methodology. His work served as an example of how mathematical principles could be applied to solve practical problems, inspiring other researchers to adopt a similar approach in their own investigations. Furthermore, Tartaglia's meticulous documentation of his observations and experiments helped to establish the importance of transparency and reproducibility in scientific research. His commitment to sharing his findings with a broader scientific community contributed to the growth of collaborative knowledge building that became a hallmark of the scientific revolution. Examining the historical tapestry surrounding Nova Scientia, one finds threads connecting Tartaglia's work to earlier intellectual traditions. Although Tartaglia challenged Aristotle, he undeniably stood upon the shoulders of those who came before him, leveraging their insights while simultaneously challenging their conclusions. One such influence can be traced to the work of the medieval philosopher and mathematician Niccolo Orsme. Orsme, in his Tractatus de Configurationibus Qualitatem et Motuum, explored the geometrical representation of motion, developing concepts that foreshadowed the later development of the concept of acceleration. While Tartaglia may not have been directly familiar with Orsme's work, The intellectual tradition that Orsme helped to establish undoubtedly influenced his thinking. Furthermore, Tartaglia's reliance on Euclidean geometry reflects the enduring legacy of ancient Greek mathematics, demonstrating a continuity of intellectual traditions across centuries. Similarly, the influence of Nova Scientia reverberates even into contemporary scientific paradigms. While modern ballistics relies on sophisticated computational models that far surpass anything imaginable in Tartaglia's time, the fundamental principles that he articulated remain relevant. The concept of the optimal firing angle, for example, is still taught in introductory physics courses. Moreover, Tartaglia's emphasis on the importance of considering multiple factors, such as projectile weight, charge power, and air resistance, continues to inform the design and optimization of modern weapons systems. In a broader sense, Tartaglia's work serves as a reminder that scientific progress is a cumulative process, with each generation building upon the discoveries of those who came before. The transition from geometrical intuition to calculus-based descriptions required not just another cumulative efforts of many brilliant minds, each contributing a piece to the One cannot help but note the irony that Tartaglia, whose very name signifies a speech impediment, became such an eloquent voice championing a new, mathematically grounded approach to understanding the world. This serves as a gentle reminder that brilliance often blossoms in unexpected places, and that apparent limitations can sometimes fuel extraordinary achievements. His struggles, both personal and intellectual, should be acknowledged as part of his triumphant legacy as a pioneer of science and engineering. In summation, Nova Scientia, published in 1537, represents a watershed moment in the history of ballistics and the broader development of scientific thought. Niccolo Tartaglia's meticulous observations, geometrical analyses, and emphasis on experimental verification marked a significant departure from traditional Aristotelian physics, laying the groundwork for future advancements in the understanding of projectile motion. His work directly influenced Galileo Galilei and inspired numerous other scientists and mathematicians to investigate the problem of projectile motion further. While Tartaglia's findings were subject to criticism and revision, his contribution remains undeniable. Nova Scientia stands as a testament to the power of mathematical reasoning and empirical observation in the pursuit of scientific knowledge, firmly cementing Tartaglia's place as a pivotal figure in the scientific revolution. His legacy continues to resonate today, reminding us of the enduring power of human curiosity and the transformative potential of scientific inquiry.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.